starts with the word betzelem.
AyinBase 10, 3 lines from top. Okay.
Right. So we just finished saying that if Adam here below, with Yesh Mi'ayin, is betzelem Elikim, surely Adam the Bria, which means the Machshava Hagduma, She'olam Machshava, there's Olam Machshavtei, Machshava from Ein Sof, Kadmon Hagduma. Yet, even though this is Olam Machshava, this is, so to speak, an innovation, but nevertheless it carries with it the union from Tzelem of Kadmon Hagduma, the Tzelem of from where it originates. So we made enough emphasis on this. This is a phenomenal statement. Now, in the middle of that line, V'hagam, although the richug ho'erech, that the distance of comparison, the bechinas machshava hagduma, the gabe oyin sof kadma l'chol hagdumi, that comparison of the union from machshava hagduma, this pristine thought, in comparison to, relative to kadma l'chol hagdum oyin sof, explain the primary difference. Machshava hagduma is a machshava. It came forth. Kadma l'chol hagdumim did not come forth. We mentioned it in the past under different circumstances. Everything but for Kadma l'chol hagdumim warrants the question, where did this come from? What initiated it, and where did it come from? Kadma l'chol hagdumim does not warrant that question. And this is where we could readily see the distance, so to speak, the phenomenal distance between everything and the Madriya. Machshava Hagduma. The Machshava Hagduma, as we said, is rooted in betzelem from Kadma, but relative to Kadma Hagduma itself, it's Shalei B'Yerech. So he says the distance of comparison, of proximity, from Machshava Hagduma to Kadma l'chol hagduma hu Yosef, is a greater distance mehorichuk erech than the distance of comparison, the Adam Shalamato of the human being here below, legabe Adam ha'elin d'Atzilus, relative to the Adam ha'elin of Atzilus. Let us examine for a moment and understand what is the meaning. It's a richug ho'erech, a distance of comparison. Use a very, very simple illustration. That's the best. The halacha is that if a person walks in the streets and he sees a lost article, a mitzvah, a find, and he looks at it, and he examines it by looking at it, and he decides, oh, that's a good thing. I'd like to have it. He has not yet acquired it. If someone comes in inadvertently without much thought, just comes over and picks it up. Who's belong to? The one who picked it up. Even if the one who picked it up noticed it as a result of the fact that the first guy was looking at it. There is no transgression at all. It doesn't belong to you. Now think of let us just examine for a moment. This article is a lost article. It's there. You walked and you found it. The very fact that it's there and you found it, how is that compared to you putting your hand out and picking it up? It's a triviality, picking it up. The real thing is the finding it. Do we agree with that? Do you understand the point? What made it exist in your world? Finding it. Picking it up is a triviality. And yet, picking it up makes it yours. If somebody takes it thereafter, he's a gossip. And by finding it, you have accomplished nothing, zero. Here we can have, so to speak, a tangible illustration of the principle of Richug Ho'erech. Picking it up is incomparable to finding it.
Although finding is a real thing.
On the contrary, finding is a real thing. He found it. That's a real accomplishment. And yet, what actually transferred it into your possession makes it real, picking it up.
Well, mitzvah is like you find it. In other words, you're not looking for it. Mitzvah implies that you just kind of find it. It's not involving your work or anything like that. It's just, okay, it comes up.
Yeah, that's right. But nevertheless, you noticed it. You could have, the story with Ebenezer. Tell me the story with Ebenezer. I mentioned Ebenezer lately. Ebenezer was a very poor man. He was a genius. He was a very rich man in very other ways. But in terms of monetarily, he was a very poor man. His father-in-law was a man of means. And no matter what, he tried to help him, but it didn't work. So Ebenezer says, I have bad luck in terms of finance.
Ebenezer said that.
Ben Mazel. So the father-in-law wanted to test it out. What does Ebenezer mean like that? So one time he knew when Ebenezer is going to walk by a narrow street. On this path, in the middle of the path, he put down a large coin or whatever it is, a valuable thing. You can't miss it. Ebenezer comes out of his house and he's walking, and he's the whole time, of course, thinking, what a wonderful gift that Abish has made, given a person that he has eyes to see. What a gift. And as he's walking, he says, without eyes, it would be a completely different world. Let me try out what it means without eyes. So he walks, he closes his eyes, tries to walk with closed eyes. He passes by the coin. Just want to give it, picking it up is in Asiyah. This is in our world. Finding it is on a higher level. That's when the things really happen. That's a real significant thing. And yet, in our world, this is what what actually is affected. My point is to understand Hatzilus is where the real thing is happening. Asiya is where you make it happen. It's Yesh Me'ayin. So we're saying that Asiya is betzelem of Atzilus. But it's a tremendous distance. And yet we say that is really reflective of Atzilus. So now we're saying that the Richon Ko'erech of Bria HaKtolis, HaMachshava HaKduma, to Atzmus, Kad Machshava HaKduma, is greater distance than Asiya L'gabe Atzilus.
We still call it an erech?
What?
We still call it an erech?
Richon Ko'erech. Distance of comparison. Okay. Ukinoida, we have 5 lines from the top. Ukinoida, the yoiser mishein arech asiya l'gabe atzilus, as is known that the greater a greater distance, the ein arech l'gabe asiya l'gabe atzilus, ein arech atzilus l'gabe yonisef. Atzilus l'gabe yonisef is of a greater distance in comparison than Asiya l'gabe Atzilus. In Asiya, nothing has a primary being except if you actively create it. That's Asiya. You pick it up, it happens. You don't pick it up, you see it. The Gemara says, Nofal oleho. He found the mitzvah and he fell upon it. There's a garment, there's a piece of cloth on the ground. He fell on the ground. Somebody comes and picks it up, and he holds on to it while he's lying on it. Who does it belong to? The one who got a hold of it. Now, see, nothing happens unless there's a specific action that denotes ownership. So even though the Richon Ko'erech is greater, yet still, behold, we know from the Odom Shalamato, from the human being here below, that despite the fact that his coming into being is in the category of Bria Yesh Me'ayin. Yesh Me'ayin means that the Ayin from which he was created is in a completely, totally different category than his presence. There is no way to trace it into there. And as it says in the Pasuk, Vayivro Elokim. Vayivro Elokim, Hashem created. The principle of creation, the term Vayivro, Shehu B'derech Ein Aroich. That's the meaning of creation. There is Bria, there is creation, and there is Atzilus, which means emanation. Emanation is something which emanates from the source, and it points to the source. Creation is something that is being created in a different domain totally. And so even though Adam is extremely distant from the Odom Traumatum Atzilus, yet he is referred to as being created betzelem Elokim. He's reflective of Elokim. He has a godly tzelem. He has a godly. His stance represents a godly presence. This means betzelem Elokim. It says that a wild beast also stands in awe of the human cell. Because it represents a different reality, a different presence, a different power. Shalei b'yerech. So just as Odom Shalamato, from Odom Shalamato we learn that there could be an extreme distance between one and another, and yet the lower would be betzelem of the higher. K'moi kein, similarly, bechin as ak, Odom kadmoin, hagam shehu be'ein aroich l'gabei oyin soif. Although that it is be'ein aroich, it is not comparable, it's not in the same vicinity as oyin soif. Ve'al kein, and for this reason, because of its great distance, nikro Odom di Bria. That's why it's called Odom of Bria. Odom, the Bria, the term Bria means creation. Bebechinas yesh me'ayin. It's like a yesh me'ayin. The simple concept of yesh me'ayin means something is there, and you cannot trace it to its source. You cannot see in its source how this occurred to be. It means yesh me'ayin. There's a phenomenal Ayin in Yesh Me'ayin. It's something which I'd like that you should really relate to. I can always speak in terms of moving the cup. Moving the cup starts from Oyneg and Rotzen HaNefesh. Let's talk not even on the plane where I'm taking the cup because I want to drink from it. Just aesthetically, I don't like the place where it's standing. To me, it seems that in this place, this would be more appropriate. Totally a ruchnische concept. A picture on the wall is a little crooked. Doesn't have any effect on anything. And something in the human intellect reveals to him that this is not perfect, this is not what it's supposed to represent. And therefore he develops a will to have it corrected. Between that will to have it corrected and actually picking up your hand and moving it, is shaloi b'yerech. That will never move the picture. As a matter of fact, as we always speak, that will is not to move the picture. It means that the picture should be in the right way. It doesn't even know that you can move it. Moving it is on a much lower level. Moving it is something which is on the level of the feet and the hands. In the will, there is no moving. This is where it is. Like we said from Baal Shem Tov. Then everything, so to speak, cooperates. But essentially, mitzad the Rotzen HaNefesh, there's no moving. How does it occur that from observing this picture and sensing that it would be more appropriate, more aesthetically correct if it were differently? This activates a physical hand to pick up and move it. We don't realize what kind of miracle is occurring over there. It's mamash brio yesh me'ayin. When you ask the hand, what's motivating you to move the picture? Not because it's aesthetically wrong. The hand doesn't appreciate that. I was told to move it. You can't trace the action to that which motivates it.
Why is it yesh me'ayin? Why is it yesh me'ayin? I mean, in a way, the hand received the command, like we just said. It need not understand why, but it received something to get it to do that.
Does the command activate the hand?
Well, there's an impulse. I mean, we're talking. There's a low impulse. There's an impulse to move. That is.
Okay, forget about the impulse. Trace it on the intellectual level. Does the command activate the hand?
There's no intellectual command that reaches the hand. So we're saying
There is an intellectual command.
There is.
Yeah, it says, move it. But it's an intellectual. It's a ruchnische thing.
Okay, so
As much as you will say it has to be there, it won't move.
So why is that in the ayin when it's receiving?
May Ayin, yeah, okay. Because even though, yes, the command was there, but the actualization of it is in such a distance, such a low level in comparison to where the command came from. It's Ayin.
Still traceable, but in the sense we're
It's
saying
traceable in terms of how it happened, but not what was actually created. The command does not have the energy to make the hand move.
The what doesn't have energy to move?
The command does not have the energy to make the hand move.
So how does the hand move?
Yesh me'ayin. The hand moves because that command translates. The hand is actually the koyach in the hand is actually comes from the midas, from the heart. It's not an intellectual thing. It's from the midas. And the miracle in the human being is the fact that yes, he has a koyach in the hand, and yet the hand will not move, but by the direction and the containment of the intellect. It will move precisely the way the intellect directs it to move. Even though the intellect is not moving the hand. It's a much lower process that makes the hand move. But it's totally subservient. It senses what the intellect wants it to do, and he can write, he can paint a picture.
And the fact that there's no thought, in other words, there's no delay when he decides that he wants to do something, right away the body, the hand will carry it out. That's just the complete subservience of the
yeah. No, that's not only to subservience, it's a complete subservience of the body to the rotzen hanefesh. Because the real thing is the rotzen. The real life force in the person is the rotzen to will, the will to live.
So we're saying now, if you were just looking at the koyachos, the rotzen versus the actual koyach that's needed to move the hand, they're completely.
Right. I'm saying this. By your wanting to move the cup, it will never move.
Right.
If that force and wanting has a force, why would it not move by force of the want?
It's not in the same world as.
It's not in the same world. It's already Earth. And I said that this one doesn't even have the concept of moving it.
But it is in the same world as the koyach of tenuah, no? There's
No.
There's also spiritual. I mean, sorry.
Well, the koyach hatenua, this is what enables the hand to move. and it can move in a control way and in a control way. Just to give us a sense of what's made Yesh Me'ayin. And yet this is what creation is, that there is a Yesh Me'ayin process all the time. As I mentioned many times, the person walks, even though he already set his goal, he's at the direction and this, every step is another decision, another will to make the next step. If not for that will, he couldn't make the step.
Showing on a continual Yesh Me'ayin.
Continual Yesh Me'ayin.
Okay, and our point here is that this Richuk is, how great it is nothing in comparison to the Richuk between Adam Elyon and Or Ein Sof.
That's right. Adam Elyon, even Machshava HaGduma, which is higher than Adam Elyon. Machshava HaGduma, pristine thought. Gabi, Oyer Sof, Chad Machshava HaGduma, it's a completely different one. Like I give the illustration of the found article. What makes the article available? The finding it or the picking it up?
What makes it available, or what gives ownership?
What makes it available? What makes it there?
Finding
it. That's a real thing. The picking it up should only be erech to the reality, the fact that it's there.
Okay, and this thing with Shiloh Be'erech over there is, again, that however great that distance is, it's nothing compared to.
That's what you're saying. That is nothing in comparison to the Ein Areich of Kadmon Chagdum to Adam Kadmon, the Machshava HaGduma, to Kadmon to Ein Sof Kadmon Chagdum.
When there's the Pirush of the betzelem Elokim bara Isai, we talk about that man was created with 10 spheres, just like the 10 spheres. So there's a connection there, but they're both. It's that similarity is represented in terms of described in terms of a structural thing that both. So it seems to be they're described in terms of an erech.
This is not an erech. This is betzelem. Betzelem is shall be erech. Picking up the article, let's take that example, and finding it. It's also, I found it, that's why I'm able to figure it out. But it's completely different world. This makes it happen, makes it be there, and this is an actively claiming. That's all. You couldn't claim anything if it weren't there. I give you a gift, and you accept it. Okay. Practically speaking, this gift is yours because you took it. But what made you have it? You're taking it or am I giving it to you? Right? What makes it be? Okay, let's just. I'm reading the line that begins. Ukmoi came bechinas ak. So similarly, on an extremely different level, but nevertheless similarly, ak hagam shuhu bein arichel gabi oirin soiv. Although it is bein arichel gabi oirin soiv, ve'al kein, because it's ein arich, that's why nikro odom de bria. This is why it's called odom de bria. Man of bria, of creation. Bechinas yesh miyayin, bechinas yesh miyayin. Over here, it's not yesh miyayin. It's bechinas yesh miyayin. It has quality of yesh miyayin because of tzilei b'yerach. Umekol mokoyim hu betzelem elakim. And yet still, machshava agduma is betzelem elakim, because that machshava was initiated from betzelem elakim, from the kadmel chadum. Right, the time is up. I wanted to read the next line, so this would kind of address your point, but you have to be patient. All right, have a feilige yontif.
Na 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 na